Looking for city. Go into public. Change, and we're good to go. 31 seconds in. My life is bleak as of right now. Half a minute, probably a bit less, but right settings. Cameras are where they're supposed to be.
I think so.
I mean, and the blokes on the cameras are very, very good looking men.
Sharp.
Absolutely, I'll tell you what. And I just say things like that at the start because you know the people are looking at it going, "What the hell are these?"
Look at all the effort we've put into our presentation.
Oh, mate, I tell you what, I haven't grew hair for this one.
I actually knocked some off. Small one. Right, let's get the show on the road.
Let's get the show on the road.
All right, g'day everyone. What are we up to? Episode 22.
22. Look at us go.
Welcome, Mr. McRae, to episode 22.
That's pretty exciting, really.
It's an achievement in its own right. We're just talking about the high quality production that we're running here, and how it's running on chewing gum string.
Big budget production here.
Big budget productions, but as we all know, it's not about the bloody bells and whistles. It's about the quality of the content.
I don't know, mate. Kamala Harris just spent $1.3 billion, and her budget was $1 billion to get elected to the US presidency, and she got nothing. So the bells and whistles often don't matter.
No.
Having Beyonce shake her booty for $10 million doesn't necessarily translate to a win.
There was some figure that they rolled out, and they'd spent $120 million each in one contest.
Yeah, it's out of control.
Yes,
it's out of control. The most I've ever spent in an election campaign, in all truth, was about $7-8 grand.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was a federal one.
That was a federal one.
Yeah.
And I wasn't, I had a donor who came forward and paid for call flutes. It was like, I'd like to do this because I'd like to see you stir the pot. And then there was a couple of individual donors who, a few $100 here, a few $100 there. We paid for a couple of ads. We didn't go crazy, you know what I mean? Like everything was sort of pretty well shoestring when you look at relative to some of the other shows, for sure.
All right, let's do our introductions. Okay,
let's do it.
My name's Anthony Irvine. I'm a councillor on Temora Shire Council, but the views I express here are not those of Temora Shire Council. They're mine and mine alone.
And I'm Dean McRae, and my views are absolutely 100% my own. I make no apologies, and I answer to nobody really because, well, I pay my own bills, I run my own show, and the only people that I'm ever actually answerable to is the truth as best as I can present it. And I do always try to present it. People I respect, but I do try to be very truthful, and even if it hurts people's feelings. So other than the fact that I try to be answerable to the truth and facts as best I can discern them, and if ever I'm wrong, I'm always the first to go, yep, I got that part wrong. So that's how I'm answerable, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 22 of the Dean and Irv Spin Doctors.
Rapidly approaching the 6-month mark. Who'd have thunk it?
We were supposed to be going
I wonder
up
what
the
the programming on Pterodactyl FM would be tonight.
I have no
We should actually put it on one night and have a little bit of a listen.
Could have a bit of a listen.
See if it's comparable.
I'm not sure. I was at a job at Ardletton the other day, and I've I've run a few little enterprises and things. Yep. I was out at Ardletton the other day. It was really cool because I got this Facebook request for some services. Would you be willing to come to Ardletton? And hell yeah, no worries. We ticked it all up. Went out to Ardletton, and towards the end of this little message exchange, this lady says to me, "You're not the Dean that used to be on Temora Radio, are you?" Well, shit, that's either a win or a loss, depending on your perspective in life. Turns out they were fans, yes. Big fans, and they actually lived up, and they were displaced people for a period of time, living in the showground up here, and they didn't have a TV, nothing. So they were actually, the radio was there and was on, and they used to, he reckons he used to go get a 6-pack every Thursday night, and he'd sit down and he'd love it. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is fantastic. Happy to, happy to be of assistance. And I know my views aren't for everybody, of course, and I'd actually be upset if everybody agreed with me on everything. I'd be bored. But I think there's a lot of people, though, who would agree with me on many a topic who wouldn't be willing to say it publicly just because of the personality that I am. A bit like this Trump wave that's come through. Oh, we don't, Trump, I'm pretty sure Joe Biden voted for Trump.
Yes.
It's just the way of the world. But I thought that was, that was very complimentary and fun. And to know that, on those Thursday nights, and I think we do that for a lot of people here now too. A lot of people tune in for a little bit of that harsh reality, a little bit of...
And
true commentary, if
and
you will.
probably a spin or a take on things that they probably don't get from any other news source. Now, I know that we're relevant because I've had multiple people in the past fortnight tell me that we talk too much, or this goes for too long, or we're doing that wrong. So once you're getting complaints, you're relevant.
Yes.
Yes. So hopefully we can keep getting complaints because we'll be more and more relevant.
And look, and we do try. So look, when I say, I think it's good that you get people who say that. I get the same thing. Sometimes I get, oh, you swore too much here, and look, I'm a passionate guy. You're a passionate guy. We care about the topics we're talking about.
And this is the whole thing. It's like you get us after a day's work, warts and all, and we're here to talk about no censorship. We're here to talk about freedom of speech. We're here to basically exercise our rights.
Not for much longer if
that's
those
the
clans
way
get their
things
way.
are spinning. But
But
it's funny how the pendulum can turn into a wrecking ball. And when you consider what's happening in the States and how closely Australia is in lockstep with the US.
Well, I hope we're going to lean more towards the US style than the UK style at the moment. Albo's pushing us for the UK style.
Albo's pushing us for the Mao Zedong.
I'd like. Well, that's where the UK's at. You get arrested for hates. They're releasing rapists and murderers from jail over there, so they can get the people in who say naughty things on the internet.
Yes.
Off its head. Yes. But I know. I try to be as succinct as I can, but I do get passionate about topics. He's a commie.
He bought a new car, and the only gear it's got's reverse. Because he's backtracking hard.
Well, hopefully he accidentally is standing behind the car when it's reversing, because he's a dead set scumbag as far as I'm concerned.
Spent the last 6 months hanging shit on Trump, and now he's trying to figure out. And there's another fellow called Kevin.
Kevin's bricks.
Kevin's looking on Seek and that.
Look, he'll get a job.
Where in Hollywood?
Xi Jinping or somebody will give him a gig. He's he's pretty big over there.
They would.
And I think they'd be a bit nervous about it, but they've got to have somewhere to go, Maybe get a job on TSC. Could do. I
actually saw a job on a website today that would suit me. It was a governance officer down at a council in Victoria. And I'll find them. It was funny.
Yeah.
You didn't need experience.
Yeah, of course not. Well, we could have a look at the world we're living in. It's a bloody circus.
Well, I thought that was pretty
cool. But, look, we try to have as many facts and figures as we can. We try to be as direct and forthright as we can. So if sometimes I use naughty words, I'm probably more guilty of it than you. I'll apologise for the words. I won't apologise for the spirit with which they are used. Because,
and if you're offended, turn it off.
Oh, look, that's it. I mean, and I get it. I fully get people going, oh, I wish you didn't use that language. And look, I get it. But if you want that super, super duper clean, shiny, polished turd, you've got the Tamura Bugle there. Not that they can spell, read, or write, but, you've got that. Or you've got ABC News or some other crap like that. And they'll be far more politically correct, but you're probably getting whatever BS they're peddling on any given week.
Listen to this. I'm telling you, when I read this, I thought, it's me. They've made this job for me.
Jobs for the boys?
At Indigo Shire Council, which is down in Victoria.
I've got a lot of Victorian mates.
Yarra Valley and the high country. Mate, I could go trout fishing on the weekends. We could go hunting and camping. Snow skiing in wintertime, bushwalking in summertime, canoeing.
Oh, lovely. Is it a DEI job, Irv?
No, it's governance officer.
Yeah, but is it any of the criteria in there say, diversity, equity, and inclusion? Do you have to be?
No. It says, this is the thing that gets me.
So do you have to be a transgendered Aboriginal woman?
It's the job description. It's the job. I'll read you the job description. Now it pays between 74 and 85,000 a year, roughly.
Yeah, right. So far too much.
Well, that's average wages, isn't it now?
But
80K is about
all too much. Every council job's too much.
It's a regional location.
Other than the actual blokes and women on the ground doing the work.
In this role, it says you'll have an ability to influence and support a wide range of stakeholders. Okay. No need to have worked in a governance role before.
Oh, okay. I'll do that.
Well, tick.
Yeah.
Okay, regional location, tick. There's 3 ticks in the first 3 boxes.
Yeah.
They haven't said anything here that I couldn't commit to. We are seeking a person with broad life experience.
Well, there you go.
Tick.
You've had a little bit of that.
Who is a flexible thinker, tick, and loves a challenge, tick. No need to have worked in a governance role, tick. Now,
So
I'm trying to think of reasons not to apply for this job because I would piss at him.
Well, it sounds like you'd be a very solid contender. So the job I want is I want the Australian version of the job that Donald Trump's just given to Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk in the US. I want to be the Doge officer for Australia. I'm going to go through the government and slash and burn and cut, and your department's done, that department's done. Bye. See ya on your way out the gate. I'd love that job. Do you want to pay me? And I'll even, as long as I still do all my other little projects and fun things that I enjoy doing, I'll go in. I'll do it for a minimum wage. A bit like when I did run for Parliament, I actually was quite happy to do it for half the amount of price. So I'm sure they're all overcharging for the amount of bloody value they provide.
Oh,
I think they're all overpaid, the whole stinking lot of them.
If it was a value for money proposition, they'd owe us.
Oh God, yes,
yes,
absolutely.
So they'd be in the negatives by
a
long way. Scummo would be negatives by the billion.
And he's a dead shit.
Yes.
He was a dead shit then. He's a dead shit now. One of the blokes that worked on my campaigns was a staffer for him once upon a time. And he came out and he actually, I won't go into his name because he'd probably get mad at me but he did take him to court.
Yes.
And he said to me, he said, Morrison would sell his grandmother without a second thought. He is such a scumbag dead shit with no principles, no codes, no ethics.
I just found it very offensive.
And I'm not shocked.
He never told his cabinet that he made himself captain of the cricket team, the soccer team, the footy team, the tennis squad, and made all these decisions and hadn't included any of them in it.
Well, they don't need to know.
Well,
it's a need-to-know basis, and only the minister's involved. That I'm the only minister with all these titles that's involved.
Yeah, and I'm not going to.
We had a meeting. You lot weren't invited.
Yeah, and now you're just going to thank me for saving you.
Well, I tell you what, the first incarnation of this misinformation, disinformation bill that we're going to dissect in a little while was him and his mates. So
anyway, back to me job. Perfect dream job. The only problem I'd have as a governance officer would be actually, I imagine my job would be to try and get government officials to do what it says on the label.
Well, I'm sure
that's where I think the flexible thinker must come in.
I'm sure if you got the job, the minute you walked in, they'd say, "So that flexible thinking shit, that's in the bin. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Here's how you're going to flexibly think.
You've got to flexibly make our actions look as though they're fitting the policy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you've got to massage out what we do with what we say we do, and you've got to try and
flexibly design that so we can sell
some sort of a tenuous link between what we say we do and what we actually do.
Yes, and you sell that, help us sell that to the public because
we're
moment, bullshit artists, and we're a long way from there. You need to help us colour
ends of the universe. For most government departments, what they say they do and what they actually do are completely unrelated.
Oh, absolutely. And look, for those of you who don't know what a DEI job is, just relative to the comments on the screen from Tegan, a diversity, equity, and inclusivity hire. So, i.e.,
I'll identify.
You need to hire. I'll identify somebody who doesn't give a shit about that.
I'll identify whatever it takes.
So that's what a DEI job is. It was arguably the reason that Kamala Harris got nominated. It wasn't because she showed any sort of capability, skill, or leadership whatsoever. She was there because she was a black chick, and they wanted to have an appropriate woman of color who was, because of just that reason, she should have been the first US president who was obviously a woman of colour, since Barack got the job and the title of the first black fella to get the job.
Yeah, but he identified as a male.
We identified as all gets very, very confusing.
Okay, now
what do you got?
Something that took my eye today, and we're talking about governance, and the poor governance, which is evident across all levels of government in Australia. Inside Local Government is a newsletter that goes out to people in local government. Now, apparently, and this is very Trump-esque, this is a big allegation.
Yeah, right.
This is serious shit. Postal vote tampering referred to police and VCAT inside local government. So this is Victorian local government elections.
Yep.
So the Victorian Electoral Commission has today announced it will apply to the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal for a review of the results of Whittlesea Council's Layla ward and Knox City Council's Baird ward elections over suspected postal vote tampering. Now, here we are in Australia.
Doesn't surprise me, you know that.
Postal vote tampering in 2024 in Australia.
I oppose postal voting. I think it's a ridiculous notion.
Electoral Commissioner Sven Blumel expressed his disappointment that it appeared election interference had occurred, but assured voters that additional safeguarding measures implemented for this year's elections had identified the irregularities. Well, that's nice to know. So it appears that maybe in some previous elections they hadn't.
I can guarantee they hadn't.
Interfering with an election is a serious matter with significant penalties. Electoral integrity is paramount. I'll have to agree with that. Following a similar incident detected in the 2020 local council elections, we implemented further safeguards and monitoring tools for the 2024 postal elections, he said. The VEC, Victorian Electoral Commission, was required by law to declare the election result for both wards before referrals to VCAT could occur. So there's some suspect voting going on. The election's been declared. It'll be interesting to see what the outcome of that is going to be.
Well, I'll tell you what the outcome will be. It'll be 2 tenths and not much, like usual.
Well, Victoria Police are involved.
No, they all walked off the job today, so they're busy.
Well, it basically concludes with, on initial review, the matters that have been referred to the LGI concern potential offences of tampering or interfering with ballot papers that are 2 of the more serious offences under the Local Government Act, each carrying a substantial fine or imprisonment for up to 5 years, he said.
Yeah, and not one of them will see a day in jail, and not one of them will be caught. And the Victorian coppers are all very, very busy after such a staunch couple of years during COVID being so excitable. Now they want a pay rise, and they've all walked off the job.
But how many Australians would even think that it's possible this day and age to have vote tampering in Australia?
Mate, I try to be.
No, but you have been exposed to this enough to know that there's high possibilities that this could occur.
My faith in humanity diminished somewhat during COVID. I already was a bit of a skeptic of, well, most things, because before COVID, I watched the climate scam, and I was that guy going, you know, the climate change thing is bullshit. This is a nonsense. We're being robbed. We're being taken for a ride. And everyone called me mad, and oh no, that's not true. And I think I've made the Daily Telegraph for declaring it a fairy tale, or whatever whatever trouble I got into then for that. And then the COVID thing happened, and again, I'd been banging this drum of these people can't be trusted for a bloody long time. And then COVID hit, and I sat there hoping and desperately wanting people to go, this is bullshit. When you're being told that you can sit down in a bar and drink a beer, but if you stand up, you're going to get COVID and die, which was basically what was rolled out around the country and around the world. And people didn't, to the degree I'd hoped, come out and go, well, hang on a minute, I smell a rat.
Okay, now there's 2 points that I just want to go back and refer to in relation to both of those things. From what I can see, the mainstream media and people in authority have declared an open season on anyone to have an alternative opinion, and that's in both of those matters. Now,
absolutely,
I've got absolutely no doubt that the industrialisation of the planet, the land clearing that's occurred, and multiple other factors are influencing the climate to some extent. I don't believe that you can take a landscape and remove a significant proportion, say a heavily wooded area, and you go and remove 90% of the vegetation, and you allow that soil to be heated much more than it used to be.
More directly,
more directly, and have less shade and less transpiration and a number of other environmental factors occurring, and not have some impact on the environment. So I believe that there is some impact, but I believe that we're being sold a pup as to the extent of the impact, the reversibility of the impact, the impact of other things like volcanoes, natural volcanic eruptions, asteroids, meteorites, all of these other things, the natural ebb and flow of the Earth's own rhythms in terms of the temperature and climate. So I just believe that we've been basically shut out of the conversation, and we're being told, no, 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 we know best. This is how it is. And the same thing with the COVID thing was, no, 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 we know everything. Take the jab, do as you're told, stay in your box, don't think for yourself, don't do any of your own self-analysis.
And we communists will keep you safe.
Absolutely. Now, and anyone who took that approach was absolutely made to feel like a leper in their own country. They were made to feel un-Australian. They were made, it split families.
Absolutely. It 100%.
Ruined relationships and split families due to this self-righteous stance that the media took.
Well,
and the government,
the media, the government,
yes,
all of those entities in.
But all of that went out to the general community.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Look, they did.
And that was just so destructive and so counterproductive. And it's turned out to be so.
It's only counterproductive depending on what your goal is.
But it's been counterproductive because now all of the hypocrisy and the outcomes have been shown to be far different to what's been.
Yes, the lies and bullshit is rolling out 100 miles an hour.
So, if anything, it set back their whole credibility.
It did.
Decades.
To a point.
No, 2 decades.
We still have people who believe this shit.
Well,
we still have people who
let's go on
watch
and
ABC.
Let's talk about this fine piece of journalism that exists in the.
And for the record, I haven't read this fine piece of journalism. I still don't purchase said glorified toilet paper.
I do, just for the shits and giggles.
Yeah. I've got better things to spend $2.
No, Tomorrow Independent from Thursday, November the 14th, 2024. Concern over Tamora's 3 tobacco shops. Now, this is by our friend Camillo. Tamora Shire is a community welcoming of business and enterprise. However, residents have been voicing their concerns lately regarding 3 tobacco shops operating on the main street, according to Tamora Shire Mayor Rick Furman.
Oh.
So, okay. I'm sure the landlords who own the properties, who are getting the rent from the tobacco shops,
probably quite happy, I'd imagine. Whoever they
haven't been voicing any concerns because they're getting rent from unoccupied premises.
Shop.
In an economic environment where it's very difficult to establish any sort of a profitable enterprise. Okay, so I haven't heard any complaints coming from them.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Significant concerns have been raised by members of the community, which council is aware of, Councillor Furman said. So much so that as a member of the New South Wales Regional Health Ministry Advisory Panel, I raised it recently with Minister Ryan Park. The Minister has been working to speed legislation to have tougher penalties on imported tobacco and other such products.
So homegrown tobacco is okay? Is that what's the...
No, you can't grow homegrown tobacco.
Well, then what's the problem with imported? If you can't, far out. It's not very, very harsh.
Look, what's happening is the federal government...
Yeah, the biggest cigarette act in the country.
Ratcheted up the excise on cigarettes and alcohol. And
it's almost going to be
cigarettes.
$20 billion this year in cigarette excise.
But it's falling.
It's only...
the revenue is falling relative to the sales because, and this is my point.
Yeah. Currently,
the excise on one stick, so they put the excise on per stick in cigarette tax. So per stick, the excise currently sits at almost $1.37 per stick,
So
per cigarette.
the
So
biggest,
if you smoke 20 cigarettes a day,
you're giving the
the
government
excess alone is $28 for 20 cigarettes. So that works out, as an Aussie battler, you are contributing in excess of $10,000. It's $10,220 per year in additional taxation that you are paying off the top. Now,
to enjoy your little bad habit that is legal.
On top of that, you also get to pay all your other taxes.
Oh yes, don't forget your income tax,
and you get to pay
your rates.
You get to pay income tax on the money that you then spend on the cigarettes,
and your fuel tax, and your GST.
So you pay your 30% tax on the money that
124
you're spending on your cigarettes, and then you're getting additional taxation. Now, get this: the federal government. Now, I'm not highly educated.
You're not?
No. But I recall something back in the 1920s and 30s called prohibition.
I'm
in America.
Well-versed, yes.
They banned alcohol. And what happened? Well, because people like a sip, it's part of one of society's vices, I suppose, and it seems to be fairly necessity to some people's way of life.
Humans like to have a drink, yes.
They've even discovered that in some animal populations, if there's fermented fruit that's actually turned to the point where it's actually creating its own alcohol, there's competition within animal populations.
Who gets it?
And it actually plays a role even at that level.
Yeah.
So you can understand, because I just think they're very clever monkeys.
Yeah, well,
we figured out how to do these things. We get a bit of a giggle out of something, make someone walk a bit funny or do something a bit silly.
Why not?
It helps establish a few relationships that might not have ever kicked off, or end a few relationships. Anyway,
create a few new little educated monkeys.
Now, so what happens when you tax something into oblivion or make it unachievable?
Well, the black market.
It establishes a black market.
And if you've watched the TV, the cigarette wars, particularly in Melbourne and Sydney at the moment, have been off the charts and epic.
So here we are in a situation where Australia is now being flooded with illegal imports of manufactured cigarettes. There's also massive crops of illegally grown excise-free tobacco, which is then sold under the street term of chop chop. So if anyone ever mentions chop chop, basically it's just illegally grown tobacco that's processed. There's no quality control over it as such, and there's no consistency per batch.
So it's like everything the government produces, no consistency and no
quality. But the government doesn't produce this. The people who are in, this is also the thing. Once you make something illegal, that creates an opportunity to establish a black market. And then, of course, police officers, members of law enforcement, border protection members are all highly susceptible to corrupt activities.
Absolutely.
So a black market will establish, and then all of a sudden you have a situation where there's huge money to be made from supplying
of what's technically a legal product too.
So it's a legal product, and also
it's a hell of a lot easier to smuggle cigarettes and sell them as looking like a somewhat legal product.
It's highly addictive.
But
it's highly addictive. It's not like a cigarette is making.
If you've got a brick of cocaine in the back of your shop, and the police walk in, just generally speaking, or anybody just walks in, they're going to go, "Oh shit, what the hell is that?" You walk in and see a packet of cigarettes or a box of cigarettes on the floor in any general shop. The average punter, or even probably the average cop on the beat, isn't really going to be going, "Oh, are those ones the taxable ones? Have they been through?"
I'm not even going to go into that level of analysis. Basically, the taxation being applied by the federal government is forcing generally law-abiding citizens who are facing a cost of living crisis to purchase
to feed a black market product.
Well, they're buying their cigarettes on the black market because they can't afford to buy them on the open normal market. And
I've had this discussion relative to cannabis legalization. And I had it with a local Conservative.
That's the whole thing, isn't it? Once you make something illegal, you monetize it. So if you legalise something like marijuana, then you demonetize it, and then you basically make it a some sort of a controlled substance whereby you might be able to put a minimal amount of taxation on it to cover the administration, and you can make it transferable in the community. You know what I mean? It's going to happen anyway.
All these things. And you look at the black market for all these illicit drugs, and people go, oh, you just want to legalise drugs. I don't even take Panadol. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a drug taker in any way, shape,
in Australia.
It's huge.
Cocaine use is very high. They said ketamine use is increasing.
Meth, ketamine, meth,
marijuana is still
everywhere.
the most consumed illicit drug in Australia.
They're taking it anyway.
Yes. Anyway,
and none of these laws are stopping it.
But we're getting to the point. We're getting to the point where these type of ridiculous arguments are being put forward when it's a taxation problem. Now, I would hate to be trying to run a hotel at the moment and paying the excise that those people are paying on alcoholic beverages and trying to be in competition, because the young people have got limited finances and they want to go and have a party. Now, if it means taking a pill or a joint or 2 drinks, because that's the equivalent price-wise.
Yeah, that's right.
2 pre-mixed cans.
Yeah.
They're voting
with their budget more so than
with their cash.
Yeah.
And they're saying, look, I can have a whole night on this, and it's having a negative impact.
Yeah.
And these type of
so
more taxes, more fines, more
this is the world we live in. It's becoming an authoritarian, totalitarian.
No, it's just like they've got the playbook out and they wait until a couple of generations have passed through and hope everyone's forgotten. Then they just go, oh, well, we'll do the old prohibition one again, eh? Yeah, okay, it's about that time.
We'll spin it around. Yeah. It's so full of shit. It just hurts my head. Doesn't work. It's never worked. It'll never work.
Imagine
a bit like socialism.
How
doesn't
many crooked
work.
politicians, crooked coppers,
of course,
crooked customs guys are making absolute shit tons. This whole industry has been infiltrated by organised crime.
Absolutely.
You can't tell me.
I can't even blame them.
But you cannot tell me that a town the size of Temora justifies that level of service in that market.
Oh, look, you've got, as mentioned here, you know, the people who sell tobacco in Temora, Woolies, Wiley's, IGA, Shell Servo. I'm sure the other firms, throw all that in. Macca's here pointed out that, drop the excise to $5 a pack, and it's a tax addiction, 100%. The biggest, David Lionhelm, when he was a senator, actually did a speech in Parliament thanking smokers for their massive contribution to the economy. And I think at the time it was nearly $20 billion. I think
they're picking on some of the lowest socio groups. When you look at the demographics that still smoke cigarettes in Australia, and the adult population, it's still around 12%.
Yep.
So that's a real figure. But they're the lower socio groups. There's a very high rate of smoking in Indigenous communities.
Yep.
There's a very high rate of smoking amongst people with mental illness.
Yep.
So basically, the federal government is kicking the shit out of the people who are least equipped.
Yeah, that's right.
To afford it.
But that keeps them in that cycle of welfare and welfare churn and the poverty cycles. You need to have the poverty cycles for these politicians to stay in power. If we had a really prosperous society across the board, people would start to realise that they do not need these parasites. The parasite classes, I call them, are useless or very, very close to useless. The large majority of them do not serve any pragmatic purpose. So if you didn't have that lower socioeconomic class, the people who are destitute most of the time, these people wouldn't be able to justify their existence. And if they can't justify their existence, they're gone. And as much as that would please me, that would scare the hell out of them because they wouldn't know what else to do with themselves.
I just don't think more legislation,
Kerry Packer said it best, every law they bring in, 2 should be repealed, otherwise stop it. Just cut the crap.
Well, my simple comment is this. Is it legal? Okay, we'll piss off.
It's legal, and if 3 tobacco shops want to open, I can't imagine
they haven't got the balls to make it illegal.
No, because paying far too much money.
They're making it pseudo illegal.
Yes.
And they're making it
There's sin taxes.
unobtainium in terms of pricing.
It's the same as when they threaten a sugar tax.
Yeah.
Now, I hate some of the products that we've got. Like I have, and I'm not going to say I don't eat Maccas and shit like that, but as far as foods, things like that go, they are not healthy. They're not good for you. They're packed loaded with sugar, but it's not up to daddy government to tax you for having the sin of eating shit food, right? That's all part of as we're raising our kids and as we're developing as a society. We're going backwards fast in a lot of ways. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., if he takes over as the health minister of the US under Trump's watch, I'll be extremely happy to see what he does, because he's determined to remove as many chemicals from these foods as possible, as much of this sort of
get it back to being something
closer
to
food
the unprocessed
food that may resemble something that once grew, swam, ate, lived, potentially real food. But we've got the same health epidemics and problems here. I struggle with it because I eat too much shit relative to how much exercise I get in the day. But you look at the US, and you read a packet of just about anything that you buy.
Well, have a look at the size of the cars they're building now. They need a seat
look at the size of the ones
8 feet wide to fit two of the big fat asses on them.
Absolutely.
They are massive. The cars are getting massive. The steering wheels are going to be that far away because people's guts
and there's a portion of me that screams self-accountability. The other portion of me is we get force-fed an awful lot of shit, because you go into the supermarket, fresh food's far more expensive than the cheap, nasty crap. There's an awful lot of factors outside, and I guarantee
it's
you
the whole sugar, cornstarch.
Yeah, absolutely. All the hidden ones that are in
it's
there.
So addictive.
Absolutely.
It's as addictive as nicotine. It's as addictive as caffeine.
And the problem that we've got is society with these, and they're elites, they're wankers, these governments, these politicians, the bureaucrats, the top echelon bastards who are charging this much money for cigarettes. They've got vested interest in keeping us fat, lazy, compliant, and obedient.
One of Warren Buffett's favourite companies to invest in is Coca-Cola.
Absolutely. He's made billions off it.
And it's got caffeine and sugar.
Most addictive substances legal substances you can get.
Yeah, it's
and
they took the cocaine out of it.
Absolutely, they did. Which
now, so where we're heading in this, we're heading into the realms of everyone's going to be at home distilling their own alcohol, brewing their own alcohol, and imbibing illicit tobacco products.
and being criminalised for it. We're creating a whole new criminal class of non-criminals.
The federal government have decided to tax it to the moon.
And it doesn't matter whether you're Liberal or Labor. So a lot of people reach out and go, yeah, but if we got the Labor Party or the Liberal Party, Labor Party out and got the Liberals in, no, that's not going to solve the problem. And I'll tell you,
it's just the other mob's turn.
I've had so many people over the 15 years that I've been involved actively politically, and I've run in campaigns, and I've had all this, but just help us fix the Liberal Party. If you get in, we can fix it from the inside. And these are people I like. People I've had beers with, I've hung out with, and I go, look,
their delusion.
I like you, but you cannot fix this shit.
No,
it's like trying to get into a cancerous cell and going, oh well, we'll just we'll perk it up here with some blueberries. It's not going to fix it. It's the Liberal Party is just as toxic and broken and woke, and it's dead and it's done as the Labor Party.
If everyone gets a chance at some stage after we've finished taking up your time, because this is high quality, have a look for a fella, Popcorn Sutton. He was one of the last well-known moonshiners in the States, and he's an absolute ripper, and it's the funniest story. And he only died in March 2009, and he made shine, and he was doing time when he died. I think there's a possibility he might even have suicided before they put him in the pen.
Look, and you know what?
And then, believe it or not, shortly after his passing, they passed a bill to allow it as some sort of a cultural undertaking.
It's like Indigenous bloody, what are you, welcome to country bullshit. Well, you've been in the South for so long.
My daddy was making moonshine.
You can go do it. It's all right. I've
got
a better idea.
So anyway, poor old Popcorn was a martyr to the cause.
Right.
So when you get a chance, have a look at Popcorn Sutton. That'll give you an indication of where we're heading in Australia, because we're heading into a situation whereby People are going to be brewing their own grog at home. People are going to be smoking chop, and the cops will be run off their feet dealing with that, not doing what they need to do. Fat cats, crooked cops, pollies, crooked border force will be making shit tons of money. Organised crime will be making shit tons of money. And delusional people will be thinking that more taxation and more legislation
is going to save us because we're all going to live in a civilised society.
Grow up.
Did you know that in certain areas of our British cousins, you have to register any chickens?
Oh,
you must register your chickens. So fortunately, some good, willing people started registering the chickens in their freezer. Started buying toy chickens and registering. But the fact is, they want to control the food supply so bad. They want to control what we can eat, what we can drink, what we can do as a society. And they're so determined to do it.
They certainly want to control what we drink so they can make sure that they get the amount of Kool-Aid just right.
Oh, look, you don't think they're not going to try and bring that shit in here where if you want to own backyard chickens, they're going to try. What do you think the bird flu was all about here a couple of months back? Oh, there's an egg shortage. Oh, shit, if you've got chickens in your yard, you need to get rid of them because you're going to die. Bullshit.
Yes.
Bullshit. Okay.
Okay.
We're being lied to at an unprecedented scale in this country.
I think Camillo needs to actually put a bit more in-depth consideration into that. I reckon that's just very lightweight.
Well, yeah,
completely misses the problem. It just more legislation, more taxation, more wasted copper time, more wasted court time, more wasted lawyer time, and more waste.
The lawyers don't say it's a waste time, make a fortune.
People getting. Imagine if they start getting to the point where they start busting people who buy illicit cigarettes.
Well,
imagine if just an otherwise law-abiding Samora citizen who's just a hard-working individual but likes to have a cigarette and can't afford the excise-laden legal cigarettes, weakens and actually goes and buys some excise-free cigarettes and gets lumbered for that and does hard time. Now, that's when you know things are going a bit far.
We're getting close. And don't forget even your fuel bill. Like I think last time I checked, it was 42 cents a litre of every dollar you spend on fuel goes straight into these idiots' back pockets so they can piss it up the wall on things like voices to Parliament and climate scams. And I believe Penny Wong sent 150 million thereabouts to the Philippines to promote LGBTI rights in fucking Asia. And I don't care about LGBT rights in Asia. I'm more worried about Australian rights as individuals. And I believe the LGBT people in Australia have exactly the same rights as I've got, or Irv's got, or you've got.
But I think we all need to band together
else
as humans and fight for our rights.
That's where we're at.
Because we're losing them everywhere. And the more they divide us and the more they put divisions between us and categorise us and pretend that there's differences.
Well, sure there are differences, but they don't have to be.
No, but there's not. We're the governed.
And they're the bunch of assholes.
Yes, that's it.
It used to be left and right. Now it's us and them. Yes. And that's exactly where it's getting to. And no doubt, if this misinformation bill that we're going to talk about very shortly gets passed, this will all be illegal. I'll be in a cage in no time. Yes. They'll have me locked up. Yeah. And there'll be a few people really happy about that until there's nobody left to defend your rights.
Well, listen to this. This is where it's getting a bit silly. So, Shoalhaven City Council CEO resigns amid fears of job cuts to address a spiralling debt. Now, Shoalhaven City Council is over on the mid-south or high south coast of New South Wales, just south of Wollongong, Shell Harbour, that type of area. And I think the biggest centre in Shoalhaven City Council would be Nowra.
Yep.
And you've got areas like Jervis Bay, Greenwell Point.
Well, we were for a half marathon the other week. Down that beautiful part of the world. Stunning.
Okay, so they've just had their CEO resign. So the CEO of a New South Wales council covering a large portion of the state's south coast has resigned as a deepening financial crisis is expected to result in more job cuts. Now, this is from ABC Illawarra, this report. So if there's any discrepancies in it, I'm sorry. I'll have to just pass it on to ABC Illawarra. Shoalhaven City Council is facing an operating deficit of more than $37 million after a series of climate emergencies from bushfires and floods, resulting in widespread damage.
Try backburning, dipshits.
to critical infrastructure such as roads and creeks. Also, the creeks are infrastructure. I suppose there's stormwater drainage. Anyway, the United Services Union have said up to 500 workers from leisure centres, libraries and other council operations could be cut through natural attrition, but the council has denied this figure. So they've got a fair workforce. The council got 3 disaster declarations in the 23-24 years, so they had a pretty tough time of it.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
No tougher than other areas in the state.
Yeah, different places have different problems, and when you live in certain areas, you've got a fair idea what those problems will be.
Now, the newly elected council's been looking at ways to trim costs.
Right.
The current model isn't working, according to the Deputy Mayor. It's
it.
bleeding money.
I'll applaud any council that's willing to cut costs. I think that should be a mandatory minimum for all of them.
When the Deputy Mayor got asked if the CEO was making the financial situation worse, he replied with the current restructure proposal, which would see 19 full-time jobs cut and 2 director roles absorbed into other departments, did not go far enough. So obviously, he's of the opinion that they need to probably trim a bit harder. And he goes on to say, in the bigger picture, we've got to look at the totality of the dire financial position and the future forecasts for the council. And something drastic needs to occur, he said. So this is from the Deputy Mayor. So he's not beating around the bush.
Good.
He denied reports there were now plans to cut up to 500 staff through natural attrition, or around half of the 1,078 full-time equivalent positions. So there's a few on staff there, but there'd be a lot of population there as well. So we're not looking at cutting any jobs yet, he said. We're looking at a restructure plan, and that's going to be put in place by hopefully the acting CEO. On Wednesday, the City Performance Director, Kerry Hamilton, resigned, adding to the potential payout costs. Now, this is where it gets interesting. I'm genuinely fearful now of the future because there is a fiduciary responsibility we have as councillors, Assistant Mayor Matthew Norris said. So it sounds like there's a couple of rats that are
jumping off a ship because it's sinking.
That's
rapidly.
only just an observation. There's people starting to go. Listen to this. So I imagine this comment's attributed to the Assistant Mayor, Matthew Norris. It continues on and it says, and if there is going to be a confidential payout fee that we are not alerted to, there is money going out the door that we are not seeing. The Deputy Mayor said the CEO payout could be as high as 38 weeks' pay. So from an annual salary of $400,000, the cost to ratepayers would amount to $292,000. That's for someone to quit.
Yeah, it's farcical. I don't care what.
$292,000 for someone to walk out the door and leave you in the shit.
Yeah, no.
Oh, that's just how it works. This is the bit that I find a bit hard to swallow. And I find it very, I wouldn't cop it well if I was a councillor there, but don't worry, I've been exposed to similar treatment here, in my opinion. A spokesman for the council said there would be no briefing to councillors on the financial implications of the resignation, as it was a confidential contractual matter.
Now this stuff.
I'm going to tell you how it supposedly works. The governing body, the elected members, engage the CEO, the general manager. They employ the general manager. The general manager, or the CEO as they're termed, it's interchangeable, then employs everyone else. So for some bureaucrat, some council officer, a spokesperson for the council said there would be no briefing to councillors on the financial implications of the resignation, as it was a confidential contractual matter. Yes, between that individual and the governing body, you muppet. Like, Can you even?
Yeah, I just every time I
Can
see
you
this stuff,
comprehend that?
I comprehend every
You're a
bit of it,
party
and
to
it
this agreement, but
pisses
we're
me
not going
off.
to tell you what's in it.
Yeah, bugger off.
And
Just bugger off.
as that other councillor,
Unaccountable, unelected
the
bureaucrats
governing
pushing
body
carts,
are the ones
costing money,
who are on the hook.
parasites.
They're the ones who get the blame when the council goes into administration through financial mismanagement. Oh,
Yeah.
you should have seen it coming. Well,
Apparently,
hello?
according to this Muppet, you're not allowed to know what's
You're not even
what's
allowed to
coming.
know what it's costing you.
You know, like that's sort of shit's it's just a disgusting.
Anyway, it's blowing up Gala. Now, I'll tell you one part of it that's a bit hard to swallow.
Besides all of it,
the Office of Local Government's offices are in Nowra. So the Office of Local Government, the oversight body for local government in New South Wales, is in Nowra, where this council appears to be imploding. Massive financial mismanagement appears to be occurring, and it looks like getting out of control.
Well, it's all right because I'm outrageous and I'm a concern and I cause problems by asking these questions or challenging these narratives. I'll tell you, I haven't pissed anybody's money up the wall, that's for sure. Unbelievable.
Anyway, that's where that.
What a farce! What a complete farce.
So we're going to watch that one with interest because it'll develop. Now that brings the CEO resignations in the past month since the council elections up to. So we've had Snowy Monero Regional Council because
because Taylor upset her or him or whatever.
Golden Mulwari,
they've quit
general
already.
manager gone. It seems as though once you get a bit of a personality dynamic shift in the room, some of the existing general managers don't like the way the wind's blowing. Look at the tea leaves and they go, maybe.
Particularly if you're going to get a 200 grand payout, I'd probably think about jumping ship as well for that.
What I would think,
not a bad golden parachute.
What I would think most of them will do is they'll move into consultancy roles or set up some sort of a advisory or
of course, yeah, some shit, and then their mates in those councils will turn around and hire them to do
completely with the Office of Local Government.
Yeah, completely useless, inconsequential.
They might get a job with the Office of Local Government checking on the fiscal responsibility of councils,
or
the transparency of CEO contracts.
I think my head's going to explode.
Well, the hypocrisy, the lunacy, the ridiculousness is only getting worse. So we've got rigged elections in Victoria. We've got councils in New South Wales where the council officers won't tell the governing body about contractual outcomes relative to contracts that they're a party to. Nice one. Now, we've got the debacle, which is the NAC, and it appears to be knackered. The first opportunity that the National Anti-Corruption Commission had to do anything meaningful and to try and rebuild some trust that the Australian population could have in the governance being provided to us by those wonderful people has been squandered. And it appears that the commissioner of the NAC has engaged in officer misconduct, and now they're going to actually go and reinvestigate something that he chose not to. So realistically, and the conversations being had around that matter now are, at what point does he leave to stem the carnage that's occurring at the NAC?
He'll leave when he's got a 200-300 grand payout on the back of some poor.
He's on 900 grand.
Oh, okay, so $1 million.
So $2-3 million payout.
Yeah, so
who knows?
Oh, what will I do? Oh no,
he might get a job being Australian ambassador. Who knows? In the US. Don't know.
I don't like his chances of that. I don't feel that the incumbents or the soon to the.
I think there's going to be a vacancy.
Oh, I think there's going to be quite a few vacancies, but I have a feeling that the new administration over there is going to be very low on tolerating bullshit and nonsense from wankers like that. I suspect. I
hope. The only other thing that I've got to add, and it's not up to date on the council website, is there's been a change of leadership following the elections at Cootamundra Gundagai.
Oh yeah, and who'd we end up with?
So, as you'll listen, regular listeners or viewers will understand, we covered the departure of Charlie Sheen when he called the
not the cokehead actor. For those of you who don't normally watch, there's a fella in Cootamundra,
ex-councillor, ex-mayor,
Charlie
Cootamundra Gundagai Regional Council.
It's spelled Shehan, not Charlie Sheen, the cokehead actor. Just so we're clear.
And Charlie, actually, in a council meeting, and this is, so excuse my potty now, he called the Minister for Local Government a bastard in his speech, where he said he was going to step down at the elections. He wasn't going to contest the next election. He was that fed up with the process. He felt so let down and betrayed by the Minister for Local Government in this process, trying to de-amalgamate or de-merge these two councils. Well, it appears that the de-amalgamation train is powering on full steam ahead with a new train driver and someone at his side stoking the firebox with vigour. So
that sounds positive.
Long-term demerger activist and agitator Ab McAllister, who's an ex-mayor of Gundagai. Right. I think he might have been a mayor of Gundagai as the emerge. I don't know. I'd have to check that. Anyway, Ab's a character. He's been in local government in that area for a long time. He's very, very strong in his views on this matter, and he's ended up with the mayor's job. And another lady as the deputy mayor. I think her name's...
When I say lady, does that mean you're not quite sure she's a lady?
No, it's definitely a lady, but I'm just trying to remember her name.
We just got to check 2024 and all, you know?
CGRC counts. Her name, look, it's very rude, but her name escapes me at the moment, but I'll find out for next week. So, what we've got is, so to give you guys an update, Cootamundra Gundagai demerger is on the table. However, the Minister for Local Government has set the bar extremely high
to be able to get it done. Of course.
He's basically thrown a lot of money. The previous operations threw a lot of money to enable the amalgamations, but now it's come time to try and untangle the mess. The costs for the untangling is being left to the councils.
Yeah.
So that's an extremely difficult situation for these councils to find themselves in, with no financial support to try and re-establish a lot of things that have been lost. Anyway, the vibe I'm getting from Cootamundra Gundagai councillors is that they are still very strongly committed to the demerger, and the next step in the process is that there's going to be an inquiry heard by the Boundaries Commission in Sydney, in Sydney Masonic Centre.
Oh, goody.
Okay.
Oh, goody.
That's going to come up, I think it's before Christmas.
Yeah, right.
So it's
the Boundaries Commission.
The Boundary Riders.
Like, God, there's too many departments in all these joints.
So the Boundaries Commission, and that's just another one for someone. It's a bit of a, you've got to have multiple agencies so that...
No, you don't.
So that responsibility can't be seated in one area.
Oh, right, just leave it to the people. It's your area. You run it how you want. They don't need any of these departments.
That's the update for Cootamundra Gundagai. So we've got a new mayor over there, a new deputy mayor over there. The commitment seems to be full steam ahead for the demerger. Absolutely screaming out for it, the people of Gundagai. I don't think Cooter care either way, but
I'm not going to notice them going all there.
Yeah, no, so that's where that's at. So that's your update. I think that's all of the sort of.
That's the main meat and potatoes you had. Don't take my. I bought a piece of paper tonight. I bought a piece of paper.
Well, that's good because
I know. But look, and just so people know too, when Irv says that he's forgotten so and so's name, unlike major TV channels and a lot of other programming, we don't have teleprompters here giving us all that. We're 100% off the cuff. Where if we're talking about this, that
our IT resources are stretched because we're actually
there's no producers behind the scenes, coming up bullshit for us to say. You get
there's no wardrobe department.
No, so sometimes something may slip the mind, or a name, or if there's a fact or figure slightly wrong, which is why I usually go, I'm pretty sure it was about.
Yes.
And I always recommend, if you're not quite sure, double check. If I give you an exact figure, I'm pretty confident that that's the exact figure.
Well, and it'll be read from a source that we believe to be correct.
Yes.
A lot of this information that we've just relayed is coming via other supposedly reputable news sources, and they could be incorrect.
Well, that's quite possible, but
we'd hate to be the ones that are found responsible for spreading information that.
Oh, look, I was in a tribunal not so long ago with some lunatics who were convinced that I was responsible for a discussion that I wasn't even involved in.
Well,
two grown men had a discussion and said some things. Some of it I sort of went, yeah, that's a bit out there. But, like we ended up in a tribunal and, my lawyer had to, put the gloves on and slap. And obviously it all came back that Dean's awesome. But you sit there and you think about these things and what we're about to go into shortly. One other thing that I was going to do before I do the misinformation, the Wagga Mardi Gras is in big trouble.
Mm-hmm.
They've had two major sponsors have pulled the pin. Aren't going to be sponsoring the event. Now, I wouldn't have thought that it was big news, but of course I've done a little bit of commentary on some of the articles I saw today. But the Wagga Council is still sponsoring the event. Now, I've got a couple of questions. One, I don't care what your sexuality is. Consenting grown adults, I don't care. Do whatever you like.
Yep.
Two, stay away from children. Children do not need to be sexualised in any way, shape, form. Men shouldn't be playing women's sports. Children don't need to be looking at drag shows. That shit needs to stop. And anybody who's feeding their children puberty blockers or, aiming towards this chemical castration for minors needs to be locked up, thrown in jail, lock away the key. It's disgusting and it's wrong. We'll allow the children to develop as they develop. You know what? If some may grow up to be gay, some may not, stop trying to push a bullshit narrative. But I'm really happy to see that Coles, and I can't remember the other ones, pulled its funding for the Mardi Gras, because I don't know why you feel like you need to have a parade waving your genitalia around up and down the main street. No real need for it that I can see. It just seems to me it's just weird. There's no need for it. So do your thing. Go to a round-up club. You want to go watch a drag show? Go to a drag club. Whatever. I don't care. Not a problem with that. Doesn't need to be in the main street. It achieves absolutely nothing. Some people think it's a good time and have a great time with it. Fair play, but it shouldn't be around kids. And I don't think councils. So Wagga City Council. I know we've got a couple of Wagga City councils who tune into this show. Don't fund bullshit like that. It's like funding Welcome to Countries out of taxpayer dollars. If a private corporation or a private citizen wants to fund a Mardi Gras, fine. If a private citizen and a private corporation wants to fund bullshit like Welcome to Countries, I don't care, your money, but stop wasting taxpayer money on bullshit pomp ceremonies and woke ideology crap. It's rubbish. It's complete nonsense. And I'm perfectly happy to see that come unstuck. And I don't even know what you would need sponsorship for. You want to have a gay parade? Get the council to block off the street. I don't know, run nude up the street, whatever the hell you're doing, have your party and fuck off home. What do you need money for?
One interesting thing that I came across, and this is dealing with the Indigenous subject, was that there appears to be some acknowledgement now that the traditional burning land management practices that were employed
used to work really well.
Well, they certainly had a different effect, and believe it or not, there are some pastoralists in Northern Australia who are starting to access services being provided by Indigenous groups. They do a bit of a patchwork burning situation, and it's a regular occurrence, and it's well managed in the territory each year. And there's guys from Western Queensland and that now who are going up because they've got land that's become unproductive because it's become choked with invasive weed species. And some of this traditional burning management land practices can actually return it to a much higher productivity level. So it's one thing that I've looked at a lot, and I do think one of the opportunities that's been missed by both communities is the land management practices that were employed and the knowledge of the land, the Australian continent, and the climate.
Yep.
And I really do think that there's a hell of a lot, and I'm disappointed that probably so much has been lost, never to be recovered because it's gone. with a lot of the what would you say, the obliteration of the culture.
Yeah.
So that
those things are
that is
always sad, sure.
But that most recent development in that space, I can see that given time and some willingness on both sides, that there would be an ongoing role where I think the Indigenous cultural managers or caretakers could certainly assist the whole,
provide some value into the circumstance, for sure.
Particularly start to manage some of the invasive species, the invasive pests, and to start to be a little bit more advisory. I'm sure careful consultation with the Indigenous keepers of the knowledge would allow us to probably manage in a less impactful and a much more sensitive and sensible fashion. So that's my little rant there. Welcome to countries, all that sort of stuff. It seems to be divisive. No one seems to be coming up with too many of the positive things that we can actually leverage from the knowledge that these people have gained over long occupations of this this landmass. And I think they're the sort of areas where we need to be really focusing and moving forward. There's some really valuable opportunities there in the provision of the services. There's probably gainful employment. There's certainly productive things that can be done, and there's great benefits for the whole population if, even just hazard reduction burns and stuff that just don't seem to be getting done anymore. There's a great, there's a lot of hills around Temora that could do with a burn on a regular basis at the right time of the year to reduce fuel loads, to make them a bit more accessible, and to reduce those type of things. And they're not getting done because there's not a right time, or people are too busy, or there's too much paperwork.
An endangered frog was seen somewhere near somewhere at some stage.
I think that a lot of these species, and certainly a lot of the plant species, have actually developed with a need for a low intensity fire to actually sustain themselves. And even to the point that the ecology of the natural landscape's being affected because it's not being exposed to these low intensity burns. So anyway, that's a positive that I saw in that space. So anyway,
fair play. No,
carry on.
And and when I throw out shit like that's not because I'm targeting LGBT people or Aboriginal people or whatever. No. But I absolutely detest
the tokenistic bullshit.
The tokenistic bullshit and the way it's funded by taxpayers, not voluntary. Right. Yeah, that shit just pisses me off. Yeah. Now, the hot topic, I guess, really from my perspective of the week
and mine
and yours, is this disinformation bill. Now, I'll start by prefacing the points that I'm going to make here. The original version of this bill was written by Scott Morrison's Liberal team. It was originally a Liberal.
Was he captain of the team?
Well, fuck, who knows?
Was there any
Water boy, captain lead.
Were there any other people present in this team?
I don't know, but everybody in that room should have been thrown off a bridge or thrown out of helicopters, as we often say in the communist world.
I'll have to ask Mr. McCormick if he was a party to the drafting.
Well, that'll be interesting. Yes. So that was where the bill originally came from. Now, there's multiple areas where this bill has stemmed from, and a lot of it's come out of the last probably 5 to 7 years.
As the mainstream media and the paid media and the puppet media
have lost traction,
have lost their control over the narrative, and the reality of a lot of things are starting to be exposed.
And the politicians are being found to be this little magic thing happened probably 20, 30 years ago, but it's absolutely come to the fore as a lot of people have started to discover and use it. It's called the internet. And it's changed the world. It's changed the landscape in ways that people could only imagine.
It's certainly made people who aren't used to being accountable more accountable, or at least being exposed
for lies and bullshit. And it's getting to the point now where, I don't know, many people my age and older read a little book in school called 1984. Was by George Orwell. It's supposed to be fiction. We're getting closer and closer to that reality as Morrison's original idea, and I wouldn't call it an original idea, obviously got it from 1984 or wherever else, or the Chinese Communist Party, but it's now morphed into an Albo project, is this Ministry of Truth. It's the misinformation and disinformation bill. A lot of it has stemmed from, we've all seen the Trump fake news. You are fake news. You
What's
are
the
fake
actual?
news.
Have you got
the title? The title is the Australian Misinformation and Disinformation Bill of whatever date.
Yes, but what's the main objective of it?
It's 145 page.
Yes, but surely
document.
they've got a main objective.
The main objective is to shut down dissent. Now, I've got a little summary from the Human Rights Commission.
Yeah, that'll do.
The Communications Legislation Amendment, Combating Misinformation and Disinformation Bill of 2024. I've got their little summary, and I don't often break out bits of paper in this program.
All right, let's hear it.
Relative to how it will impact human rights. Now, it's passed the lower house. It's been described by certainly some people who lean politically, as I do, as one of the most insidious and disgusting pieces of legislation.
Oh, and most Australians are going to sleep through it. Most Australians will sleep through it, and in 5 years' time, when they're being fed when they're seeing.
Well, where I'm really scared now is we're waiting for the upper house to come back, and I'll tell you who we're relying on to say no to this bill. David Pocock, who I agree with on very little, he voted it down. A few of the Greens have, I believe, voted it down. The Liberal Party came to the party late and started voting it down.
I'd say that was on the back of the US elections.
Absolutely. They're shitting bricks, as they should, because most of them are useless parasites.
Yes.
The Teals all proved themselves to be absolutely just communists. They were all for it. I think only one of them voted against this bill.
Yep.
The 4 senators that we're waiting on for support this is going to scare some of you guys. Fatima Payman.
Well, I think she'll support it.
Support it. I think her office released a tweet or a statement today saying it doesn't look good. Now that is I think she's gone off and created some version of a Muslim party after crossing the floor in the Labor Party and kicked out. We're relying on her. We're relying on Jackie Lambie of Tasmania, who sometimes is completely unhinged and off her head and comes out with complete communist nonsense, and other times she's a freedom fighter for veterans and war heroes, and she's very confused. David Van, who I believe quit the Liberal Party after sex assault allegation, whatever the hell happened to him. We're relying on him. And my girlfriend, Lydia Thorpe. They're the 4. So poor old mad Lydia Thorpe has the fate of this bill in her hands with those other 3 or 4 mentioned. So I am shitting bricks, ladies and gentlemen. The reason I'm shitting bricks is because the way this bill works, as I said, it's a 145-page document, and then there's another 700-odd page supporting document.
But fundamentally, what we're going to do is we're going to abrogate responsibility for determining whether something's misinformation or disinformation into the hands of ACMA,
who are another useless bureaucratic
Communications and Media Authority.
Michelle Rowland, who's the Labor Party Communications Minister, has sort of declared that no, they'll be an independent body, but then we've actually got her in radio interviews and things saying, yeah, but I'll be telling them what to do.
Oh, they'll be an independent body handpicked by me.
Handpicked by me and answerable to me and doing what I want. Now,
that's like the independent investigators that they get for code of conduct investigations at local government. That get paid by the local government authority.
This legislation will arguably go hand in hand with Albo's YouTube and internet ban on children, i.e. because he doesn't want them seeing anything that doesn't come from his office, or let's not just his office or whichever dickheads are in power at the time. Because don't worry, as much as the blue team's saying no to it, they're only saying no to it, I think, because Trump got elected. Otherwise, they were all in on it because they had come up with the initial version of it. They want it there to use as a tool to silence people like us. People like, they don't want any of us seeing Joe Rogan. They don't want us using Twitter or X.
They don't want any alternatives to them.
There will be no alternative views to legacy media and anything put out by government officials, which obviously during COVID.
You imagine the misinformation bill will be wholly and solely supported by big media.
Absolutely, they love it.
Rupert Murdoch will love it because that'll monopolise his.
Puts him back in the power and takes the power away from
Kerry Stokes.
And all their shares have tumbled and plummeted and gone to shit because they can't be trusted.
Yes.
And during COVID, all of the things that were labelled as misinformation, disinformation through that 3-year period. And I sat here banging the drum. At the time, I was doing little podcasts with people and whatever going, I smell a rat, I smell bullshit. All of those things that we've come out with have pretty much been proven to be true and accurate. I've had doctors, I've had scientists, I've had all, and they've all been now basically, after being called liars for 4 years, they've all been proven accurate. And now they want to outlaw our ability to have those discussions. i.e. we are the ministry of truth, and you will listen to us, and you will listen to us only. You Australians do as you're told, and it's scary as shit. Now,
imagine when we get to the point where they're going to be tapping our phones, listening into our phones.
They're already doing a certain amount of that.
But then
then it's law.
Yeah, and they're going to be throwing people in the pen.
They're the same as the hate speech laws that are in the UK at the moment. So there's precedents for this.
Oh,
these assholes are gunning for everybody who does not want to toe the line. They're gunning for you. And don't just think because generally you were in agreement, because the minute you're not, you're on our side. Oh. It only takes one difference of your opinion, and you're sitting there looking at me going, shit, help, what do I do? And I saw that through COVID. Now, the first incarnation of this bill was laughed out of the building. It was laughed at. It was such an appalling piece of legislation. The biggest communists in the country were sitting there going, you can't possibly put this forward. You know, people have been rallying against it. And I think there was something like 30 serious submissions against the bill, none for other than elbows.
Oh, there's been multiple petitions. There's been huge outcry from a massive...
Not one not one, but nobody in the general public of Australia has sat there and gone, this is what we want. This is what we need, certainly en masse, to where we need this bill. Now, the second incarnation of the bill, they brought it in with some tweaks, modifications, thinking they get it across the line. They then allowed, get this, because they like everybody had plenty of time to digest such a significant bill, 7 days to provide submissions against or for this the revamped bill, and it's being jammed through. It was being jammed through US election day. Can you be surprised? I wonder why they did it on a day where most of the country was busy watching to see whether Donald Trump was going to get in or not. That's when they pushed this into
their heart sank when they saw the election results coming in.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, that's the one glimmer of hope I've currently got at the moment. Australia desperately needs Trump to ring these dickheads and go, yeah, guess what? You're on notice.
Yeah.
Because these pricks aren't listening to me, and they're not listening to you. And they're not listening to, I mean, who have we got in this country that's not along those lines? John Ruddick, David Limbrick, even Mark Latham's, like...
All of those people are deplatformed.
They're deplatformed, they're outnumbered, they're outgunned. We need to start getting behind them, whether you're a One Nation guy, whether you're a traditional Liberal. There's a couple of Liberal MPs that have come out, in support of our side, going bullshit. Jared Rennick's just quit the Liberal Party because they were going to deplatform him in the Liberal Party for having too many opinions. I'm pissed off, and I'm really, really terrified for our country. And most people who know me know I don't exactly get scared of things. I'm not a fearful person. This legislation scares the living shit out of me. Therefore, you should all be terrified. Now, the Australian Human Rights Commission provided a submission on the Communications Legislation Amendment, combating misinformation and disinformation. Now, their argument here is that it's to protect people. It's to keep us all safe, because we need to be safe. Freedom of expression is one of the terms that is used. Misinformation and disinformation can have a real and significant impacts on human rights, social cohesion one I'm going to touch on in a minute, and democratic processes, which you just pointed out that democratically there's an election that's been tampered with in this country. However, caution is advised where information may be opportunistically labelled as misinformation or disinformation to delegitimise alternative opinions and limit open discussion about issues of public importance. I.e., everything that went on through COVID when people were saying lockdowns are bullshit, sitting down to have a drink while standing up is not going to make any difference, and face masks are overrated, and the vaccine is not proven to be safe and effective. It is proven to be something that they've given us as an option and should never have been mandated. But the Human Rights Commission is very, very concerned. Now, social cohesion in this context, that means that if you put up an alternative, a dissenting opinion to the government that may catch fire, i.e. COVID's nonsense or climate change is nonsense, and it's a dissenting opinion that may cause social cohesion to struggle or create that dissent, that's automatically banned. That's outlawed.
But even to the point where they will think they've got a good idea until a much more sensible alternative is put forward. If we're being denied the much more sensible alternative.
Absolutely.
Because they are the arbiters. Their opinion is correct.
They're the arbiters of everything, and we will comply.
And that's disgusting, because we've seen enough train wreck, stupid politician decisions to know that about 1 in 50 is even remotely approaching successful.
Most of them are shit. Yes. Now the caution is advice from the Human Rights Commission, because information may be opportunistically labelled as misinformation.
Yes.
So, and again, we've already seen it where the Liberal Party come in and go, "Oh, Labor Party are lying through an election, or that candidate's lying through an election because they're denying climate change," or you know, if a politician in one electorate says, you know, there are 2 genders. Misinformation, there is 25 genders, that will be illegal.
But even to the point, how do they have debate in the Parliament?
This is where we're heading.
Yes.
You're not allowed.
Yes.
You can't have debate. Now,
in order to have debate, you've got to have opposing views.
Now, as I understand it, with this current legislation, politicians are exempt.
Oh, they're exempt from politics.
Yeah.
It sounds like the politicians in Britain, when everyone else had to stay in lockdown, they could have
parties. Yes, under Boris, the great conservative jackass.
They were exempt.
He was a
I think the guy who organised the party's just got some honours.
Freedom of expression is enshrined in a range of international and regional human rights instruments. However, the right is not absolute and restrictions may be imposed provided that strict tests are satisfied. Although there have been improvements to the original bill, freedom of expression is not sufficiently protected. Now, the Human Rights Commission is saying this regarding this law.
It's not sufficiently protected.
I get on this program week in, week out. I've had people call me all sorts of things on this program, and I still share their shit on here because I believe in your right to call me an asshole. Yep. I absolutely will defend your right to not like me one bit.
And have your view on it.
And say it out loud, and I'm not going to get mad at you. I might call you an asshole right back. But I absolutely think that is paramount to a free society, is your eligibility to have this freedom of expression. And the Human Rights Commission apparently agrees with me on this at this point relative to this bill.
This whole show is the product of censorship.
Absolutely.
Deplatformed off the local community radio station. Truckloads of intentional misinformation being peddled by the Temora Independent.
Yeah, that's right.
And the only opportunity that sensible, law-abiding community members have got to correct the narrative and to put forward their opinions with evidence and back it up with hard evidence, and to...
Well, I mean, we choose to back it up with hard evidence. I don't care if you want to get on there and talk absolute gibbering nonsense, but...
The thing is, there's been a massive narrative of what you heard the rumours, I heard the rumours being peddled locally that $500,000 had been spent by council at NCAT.
Yeah.
And I got the hard figures from council,
and I went,
and it was in the order of $63,000.
Yes.
So
there's misinformation clarified,
yes,
and I wouldn't mind betting that misinformation would have been peddled from the legacy organisations in town who wanted to paint a certain picture.
So how? And I'm sure people such as ourselves would be denied the opportunity to put forward the case that what was being peddled was misinformation.
Well, and here's the thing. At the moment, people go, McRae's a loudmouth, don't like him very much, he's an ass, right? But here's the thing. When I'm gone, nobody else is going to defend. I mean, we're hoping other people will step up.
Whenever there's been
there has to be somebody willing to defend these rights on your behalf.
Yeah,
and I've been banging it on for a long time, and
when
I don't care.
The person speaking against the masses, you've got to have a big mouth.
You've got no choice.
I get,
and every time we get closer and closer to these things, I get crankier and crankier because I can. But I see every now and then somebody will send me a message going, "Thank Christ."
I'll give you an example of the bullshit of how ridiculous and how much this is absolutely insidiously slipped into the narrative. I went to a REROC presentation, Riverina Eastern Region of Councils, councillor induction presentation on Saturday over at Wagga. So that was attended by councillors from Temora, Cootamundra Gundagai, Junee, Lockhart, Coolaman, Greater Hume. So that's Bland. That's the catch from REROC. So one of the statements being peddled, or one of the narratives or the concepts being peddled, was that a councillor has to approach every decision they make with a completely unbiased mind and make their decision purely on the evidence put before them. And the presenter was trying to make the point that you can't. The example given was this: a councillor or a person ran for election on a platform regarding the provision of a road in an area, and that was their one and only platform that they campaigned upon.
Yep.
So when that matter came up before council, the argument was that they could not vote on the matter because they'd bought a preformed opinion and they weren't going to fairly consider the matter
that's what I want.
with an unbiased mind.
Fuck's sake.
And I said, that is ridiculous. That's why.
Did you say it like that while you do that? I think you went,
that's ridiculous. That's why they got elected.
Yes.
And they got elected because enough people in the area
agreed with them and wanted them to fight on that platform.
Now, if you want to extrapolate that out, then when the vote comes up at Cootamundra-Gundagai Regional Council whether to demerge, all of those councillors aren't going to be able to vote because they've already expressed an opinion that they want to demerge. Their minds are made up. They're going through the process of trying to go and get ready to demerge and tick the boxes. So what are you saying? They go into that meeting with a clear mind and they assess everything there and then and vote against it. Like, the people would throw them.
They did shot. Well, they should be thrown in the Murrumbidgee River if they do that.
That's how stupid it's gotten and how controlled it is and how people can't have their opinion.
And that's what this bill's designed to do, is to stop you from having whatever opinion you hold.
A new councillor piped up and he said, am I allowed to put out some sort of a newsletter to inform the community of what's going on in the area? Because I keep getting asked, I'm in a sort of forward-facing sort of position in town where people have got free and easy access to me, and a lot of these questions keep getting asked. And
she says no, I'd be inclined to slap.
Well, there was a little bit of that, and I said, mate, of course you can.
Do whatever you want.
As long as you do not misrepresent a council decision and you do not put your own views forward as a council position,
yes,
then you're entitled to express your own views. Just because you've been elected to council doesn't mean that you've had a lobotomy.
Your nuts have been put in a vice and you're no longer allowed to.
It's just disgusting. And I've seen that at that level. And I've had a code of conduct on me for talking to the local radio, for talking to ABC Riverina about shit in the industrial area being left by overnight.
Literal, yes.
Overnight
truckers.
Yes.
Where we shouldn't have truckers. They may have identified as something else.
Yeah, they may have identified as bus drivers.
No, I tell you.
Anyway, so that's the story. This is going to be. This is probably one of the biggest fights post-COVID that Australia's going to face.
This is hugely significant.
Yes.
Hugely significant. Defining key terms. This is the Human Rights Commission on this bill. They seem to agree with me that it's a shit bill. Not often I'd be on the same page with these guys. There have been changes to the definition of key terms that have provided additional clarity. Removing the definition of harm and instead defining serious harm is a beneficial change which improves protection for free expression. Now, I'd still like to know what counts as serious harm. Well, because I'm fairly confident that me going, I think you're a shithead or an asshole to somebody could be taken as you've serious harm to my feelings or some other nonsense.
Well, this is the thing.
However, the Commission continues to hold concerns about both the categories of misinformation and disinformation and the low harm threshold that remains. To learn more about these definitional issues, please read the submission in full. And again, it's 100 and something pages.
Coming back to that, what you said there, and when you actually said someone's a shithead or that, well, that's attacking an individual, and it's probably not on. If you can attack someone's opinion, you can attack their point of view.
But as far as not on, if I want to turn around and say, I like John Ruddick, but for argument's sake, I'll go, John, that was the shittest bit of legislation I've ever seen you throw up. You're a dickhead. Now, if that's going to have him in a position where all of a sudden, and again, John and I are mates, but, for what it's worth, if he turns around and goes, oh, well, that's hurt my feelings and caused me serious harm, I'm going to refer you to ACMA, who's going to be in charge of this shit. Next thing you know, I'm in a tribunal for saying exactly what I think. And if I'm eligible to go on that chopping block, don't worry, all the rest of you are as well.
No, but there's an element there that I still don't agree with. The idea that you can call him a dickhead because you don't agree with his policy position.
You show me an Australian in the last 100 years that at some point hasn't called somebody a dickhead, or at least called them something where they've gone, oh, I don't like you, I hate you, whatever the case may be. If that gets enshrined into some version of a law that you can't do it, we're absolutely in communist China.
No.
Absolutely. If you want to call me a dickhead, you go right ahead, and I'm not going to be offended. I'll probably call you one right back, and the feeling's probably mutual. But the fact is that they want to enshrine this sort of shit in our laws. Now, platform reporting, because obviously the first area they're going for is all these social media platforms.
I'm less concerned about the actual personal slights. I'm much more concerned about the idea that
all of this fits into the bigger picture, you know. So you get, and this is the thing, and this is how they get these things done. Somebody go, well, that part's not so bad, and I like that part. No, but some child was bullied on the internet or whatever. Okay, look, children get bullied on the internet. Here's what you do as a parent: you go, give me a fucking device. I don't think you're old enough and mature enough to drive one of them at this stage, right? Or so and so's being a dickhead and they're making you cry. Don't interact with them people. You've got a block button, whatever. The point is the government do not need to put these protections in. That's what parents are for, relative to children and relative to adults. Be an adult.
Well, the problem is the adults are behaving like children.
And
of course,
that's their right.
The government is trying to behave like their parents.
Well,
and protect them all from themselves.
Adults are entitled to be as big a dickheads as they so choose. So that's their right as an adult.
Yes.
It is not up to daddy government, some elected wanker, to tell you how to live your life, what views to have. Now, platform reporting. This is a Human Rights Commission. This isn't me just spouting off here. Regulator and researcher access to misinformation and disinformation insights is essential to monitor and evaluate their prevalence in Australia. However, this bill no longer requires digital platforms to report on the prevalence of false, misleading, or deceptive content. Transparency is a key factor in determining how misinformation and disinformation is affecting the online environment. It is also an important safeguard for freedom of expression, as it may allow insights into the kinds of information which is being flagged. Now, as I read that, transparency, great. I look at how are they going to monitor and evaluate their prevalence in Australia? Who makes that decision? Do we have?
We already have got people doing that.
Well, look, Facebook pay fact checkers, right? The Voice to Parliament, their biggest crybaby shit, and it's now the biggest crybaby shit of the Kamala regime.
The US government have already had Facebook, Google, and they were trying, and this is the thing, they were trying to get X or Twitter to
the platform
be their gatekeepers.
Yes.
And Elon Musk basically turned that on his head when he bought Twitter, sacked a heap of them.
Yes. Thank God for Elon
renamed Musk. It X, and basically encouraged freedom of expression.
Yeah.
So he has single-handedly flown the flag and stemmed the tide in the big media in the US. And I reckon he's massively, and obviously he's been recognised by Trump since the election win with the offer of some senior positions in his
cabinet
to influence policy going forward. Imagine what would have happened if he hadn't have resisted and Twitter and Facebook and all of these other, because Zuckerberg has said that he has controlled. And
Zuckerberg come out that he was, and that he did it under the guide or under the instruction and direction of FBI, CIA, Joe Biden, and team.
Yeah.
So they're being bullied and harassed into censoring anything that the government doesn't want put out there. Now, this is Australia's version of doing the same thing,
and I think it's counterproductive because as adults we need to know what's going on, and then we can make informed decisions. And by not giving us, I hate being told what to do. I like getting the full facts in front of me so that I might make a sensible decision based on that.
And I can debate them. And here's the thing. I think you, the viewer, you, the citizen, you, the consenting adult, whether you agree with me or not, I think you're smart enough or dumb enough, doesn't matter, to make decisions.
It's funny.
Digest.
It's funny you say that because John Laws has just stepped down.
Ray Hadley's just stepped down.
Ray Hadley's just stepped down. And the comment I made was, wow, there's going to be a heap of Australians who've got no idea what to think about anything.
Yeah, well, that's fair and reasonable.
They've lost the ability to collect their own data and form their own opinion. And they rely on Lawsy and Ray Hadley to tell them what to think about serious things because they're too lazy and too useless to go and
you've got that on both sides of the aisle. There's people who listen religiously to anything the ABC says is gospel. Anything that Hadley or Lawsy say is gospel. And I tell you, both sides of them are all full of shit at times when it suits them relative to the thing.
They're both from a bias.
Absolutely.
And you can't.
But you know what the bias is. You know that Hadley leans hardcore right, and you know the ABC's a hardcore left.
Even Hadley's not hard. Hadley's middle left.
Yeah. Well, in the old terms, he's a conservative voice.
Yes.
And this is the us versus them versus the where it's all at. It's a very interesting time to be alive.
Well, like I say, a lot of Australians have just abrogated responsibility for
their thought to whichever team they think they're a part of.
They've lost the ability to actually go and collect evidence and data.
We see that out here election time when the Nationals need to get voted in. The Nationals could run a ham sandwich in tomorrow, and that ham sandwich in a yellow T-shirt that said Nationals would probably get elected to
75% of the first.
Yeah, 75% of the first preferences because it's the Nats.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that
it's a ham sandwich.
Yeah. I was going to say, despite the fact that it was a ham sandwich that supports net zero and supports all this LGBT shit and supports all the rest of it.
All right.
But so here we go. We're coming into the final straight here. It's my turn to actually read off a bit of paper and take too long doing it. The review mechanism is another point of. So again, this is only the Human Rights Commission's summary of concern. I didn't print off the 145-page document. I'm not that big of a sadist. I did read it though, and that hurt my head. Made me want to cry. The bill provides a review mechanism which includes an assessment of the impact of the bill on freedom of expression 3 years after commencement. So you can't review these things for 3 years. While this is a welcome safeguard, 3 years is a long time in the digital environment, given the rapid pace of technological development. At a minimum, an additional initial review should take place 12 months after the commencement of this legislation.
Oh, they're going to review the legislation.
They're going to review the legislation within 3 years. Yeah. No, so arguably, if they get it wrong, they'll get it wrong for 3 years. If they get it wrong and they decide that Dean and Irv spin doctors is misinformation because, I suggested Mr. McCormack may have been to a Diddy party, in jest, of course, we could be deplatformed and I could be in a prison cell. On the basis of those laws, because
they'd be licking their lips.
Look, I'm sure there's a few people with a bit of a hard on for me trying to lock me up, and good luck. I'm not going anywhere. So the final recommendation: the Human Rights Commission submission makes one recommendation, and that is that this bill should not be passed in its current form. However, the submission should be read in full.
Yes.
Now, the Human Rights Commission opposes the bill that Albo's jamming through this week.
Yes.
And we're sitting here relying on
sleeping through
David Van.
Yeah.
That's my payment.
Yes. They're the superheroes.
Jackie Lambie and Lydia Thorpe are the 4 senators that we're relying on to keep us from this shit. 1984's Truth Commission. Yeah. Be very nervous, be possibly ready for a fight, because we may need to have one. If this gets passed and rammed through our throat, people are going to be getting locked up. And don't forget, they did it during COVID. They arrested a woman for posting on the internet. She was pregnant in her pajamas at the time, and the Vic Pol locked her up, took her to jail. They will be rocking up to your houses and taking people to jail for having dissenting opinions on the internet. That's going to happen so fast, your heads are going to spin. As it happened extremely quickly with the COVID shit. Nobody saw that coming until it landed. And it's happening 100 miles an hour in the UK at the moment, where people are being arrested and locked up for untold amounts of time for hate speech laws. Be really, really concerned about this shit. And if you've got an opportunity, if you've got the inclination, send all 4 of those senators a nice email, ring them, leave messages on their phone, We need those 4 to say no to this misinformation bill. I'm assuming that this idiot will then try and push it through a 3rd time because he's so desperate to cover his ass for all these things. But not long after there, look, we somehow, as scary as it is, as dopey as Dutton is, Dutton's going to be the next Prime Minister at the next election because Albo is so shit and so bad. Dutton will lean into just enough Trump to get him over the line, which doesn't take much in this country.
I can't believe that the politicians of Australia,
so shit,
the lower house, have supported this. And I can't believe it's even this knife edge at the Senate stage.
And I can't believe that a party that was founded by Robert Menzies with those values that they espouse on their We Believe statement haven't fought harder, longer, better, but they've been gutless and useless for 15 years. So I'm actually madder at them than I am at the Labor Party because I expect them to be communist dickheads. Every time I read the Liberal Party We Believe statement, I get warm and fuzzy. When I watch Menzies speak, I get warm and fuzzy, and I go, you know what? If that guy was in charge, I'd be quite happy to support them. Oh, that's me. I'd be right happy there with anyway, a lot of people.
I'll support your right to think that way, and I'll support your right to say it publicly.
Oh, thanks, man.
Even if I don't agree with it.
Well, but you're allowed to not agree with it. But that's, you know, like
that's, you know, it's about that. Yeah, I might not agree with you, but I'll fight to the death to make sure that you can say it.
Absolutely, and you know, it just pisses me off that more people aren't knowing about it. It needs to be shot in the arse. Let's hope it's not too late. You're 100% right. Vote them out. Vote them out when you can. Yeah, look, I think, and this is part of it. We're going to replace one STI with another. Yeah. And the STI we replace them with is going to be a watered down shit Liberal Party who's riding on Trump's coattails. Not one of them has an ounce of conviction. And look, there may be 2 or 3 in there that are probably pretty good. I've got a couple that I can think of in the Libs that
I can't think.
I can think of a couple who I've met personally, spent some time with. I go, oh, you know, all right. But until I see them come out swinging hard, I've got no faith in the Lib Nats whatsoever.
The whole thing's broken. No one will make a hard decision. No one will show any leadership. They're all as weak as piss. And on that happy note, let's wrap it up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up because I'm going to go home and cry.
No, I'm not.
No, you're not. I'm going to go home and cry.
No, I'm going to.
What I'm going to do is
do what I do every other week, and I'm going to go back out to my local community, and I'm going to influence us positively, and I'm going to uphold as many of these objectives and as many of these principles as I possibly can in the next 7 days, and hopefully come back here and still be free and able to do it.
It's a hopefully bit that worries me.
Hopefully,
everybody who tunes in, please email, contact, ring those four senators. Yeah. If you've got time, I'll be sending them all an email tonight. I'll be leaving voicemails. But you know, thank you all for tuning in. Probably went longer than we planned because we were like, let's do it in an hour, and it's just exploded. But this is a pretty serious legislation, and it's not one that we can just wash under the cupboard.
No.
Thanks everyone to tune in. Everyone who's happy that likes the program, please like it, share it, subscribe it. I figure I'm on an ASIO watch list somewhere anyway, so they might as well watch and tune in. Who cares? Yeah, load them up, lock and load. Send them the links. Yeah, that's it. We know the Electoral Commission was watching. Yes. So New South Wales Electoral Commission were watching. They told me on the phone. Yeah. They had a good time. Everybody, we do appreciate you. Thank you. It takes a lot out of your time to come in and tune into us for a couple of hours on a Thursday night. But once again, thanks very much. Everyone have a really as positive a week as you can. Try and make a difference where you can because it's not going to do it on its own.
That's exactly right. Live your life and influence in your local community. Start it at home. If everyone does that tomorrow, the place is going to be a better place.
No doubt about it. Right, guys. Thanks very much.
Catch you.